Okay, so today we are here to discuss Google tools, and we've got some great tools from our presenters that are going to help you navigate some things like how to find free images, how to use Google Forms and Google Classroom. And the presenters we have today have been hand-selected from our amazing lineup of ISTE 2015 presenters. We have with us today Christopher Kraft, who is a teacher, Introduction to STEM in Columbia, South Carolina. We also have Jeff Heil, or I said it wrong again, didn't I? Heil.
Heil, yeah, sorry.
He is the Instructional Technology Coach at the San Diego Office of Education, one of many hats that he wears. We also have with us Jennie Magiera, and she is the Digital Learning Coordinator in Chicago Public Schools, but she's transitioning to the Chief Technology Officer for District 62. And last but not least, we have Julene Reed, who is the Director of Academic Technology at St. George's Independent School, which is in Memphis. So a couple of just housekeeping notes for our viewers. If you are on the Hangout and go to the little box in kind of near the top right, that's the square with the little squares in it, you can switch from the showcase to the Q&A in that box. And so that is where you'll go if you want to ask us questions as we're going through. We may answer questions throughout, or we may just hold the questions to the end if we've got time. So we've got so much good stuff that our presenters are going to cover with us today. So to kick it off, we're going to start with Chris Kraft, and he's going to talk about an opportunity or a problem he was facing and a solution that he came up with for that problem. Take it away, Chris.
Thanks, Elizabeth. As Elizabeth mentioned, I'm Chris Kraft. I live, work, and play in Columbia, South Carolina, home of the Gamecocks. I'm thrilled to be a part of our Hangout tonight, and I want to talk to you about a problem that I have encountered on several occasions, both as a classroom teacher and during the time that I'm fortunate to work with teachers all around the world. That problem is this. When your students in mind sit down and type in google.com, many times they're looking specifically for an image. Well, they've learned over the years of Googling that they can simply do a Google image search. Well, if your students are anything like mine, they do a Google search, they find images they want, they download them, they put them directly into whatever work product it is they're toiling away at. But you know as well as I do there's a potential issue with copyright. Now, I'll admit, maybe this is not you, maybe this is just me. I've had the tendency to not worry about that as much. I've claimed fair use, I've claimed all level of different potentially problematic excuses on my part, and the reality is no matter how much I taught my students how to properly do a search, because of course as you probably already know, you can do an advanced search, you can filter by that copyright level. So we can enforce free to use or share, we can decide commercially or otherwise. But the reality is your students and mine, maybe not yours, maybe just mine, can have the tendency to be just a touch lazy. So I decided to make that easy. If you want to take a look at this, simply visit crafty184.com, crafty184.com, and you'll see two extensions that I wrote. One of the extensions is called Crafty Writes. Crafty Writes. And that's R-I-G-H-T-S. Crafty Writes. It's right in the center. Look for the CR. And Crafty Writes is a simple extension that when it's enabled, every single image search returns images that are free to use or share. It simply takes away those copyrighted images to where students aren't considering that whatsoever. It's available in the Chrome Web Store. So districts, there are districts all around the world that have written me that have said, hey, thank you. We've deployed this across our student body, particularly for Chromebook use, and now our kids, at the very least, we have a higher degree of confidence that the images they're searching for are not violating copyright. So Crafty Writes, just a simple, quick little extension that's still very much in beta, and it has just one simple little purpose. No fancy menus, no fancy anythings. just simply designed to make it to where your kids and mine don't have to think about that anymore. It shortens the distance between let's go find something amazing, now I'm also going to use that something amazing, and I no longer have to think about that pesky issue of copyright. Disclaimer, not sure it works everywhere, not sure it works 100%. I would love to hear your bug reports, crafty184.com, use the contact form. I'd love to hear. Totally free, and it'll never cost any money. It's a labor of love. So if you look at the code and it's not amazing, please write me and be gracious with me. That's it's just something that I decided to learn about to mitigate that little problem that my students were having. So that was my real problem. That was my real solution. Crafty writes, which you can find at crafty184.com. Elizabeth, back to you.
I'll put in a cheap plug, Chris, that Crafty Text is also a very handy extension you wrote. I love that to push out like short URLs when I'm doing presentations. So while you're visiting that one, feel free to add Crafty Text, and it will blast a huge message across your screen when you're on a website if you want to share a very large piece of text with your kids, or perhaps those who need larger text.
That's kind of you. Thank you to mention that.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Chris. And Jeffrey, while you've got the floor, you are up next. So what do you have for us today?
Well, I've worked all throughout San Diego County. Primarily, I work with the juvenile court and community schools, and with our current move to Common Core, I've also been working with districts all around San Diego County, and I've been doing a lot of Google work with EdTech team, where I've been going around talking about integrating standards into the curriculum. And one of the things that I wanted to focus on is the problem of making claims and defending them with evidence. And I've seen that, I mean, it's for the juvenile court and community schools that I'm working with, it's a very targeted goal that they're working on, is that these kids are able to make claims and defend with evidence throughout all curricular areas. And as I travel around working with teachers, I've got just a short little story. I was in a classroom with a teacher who was amazing, and it was with a group of kids who had just recently gotten out of incarceration, and they were in a transition program. So it's it was a fairly challenging group of kids to work with. And this teacher, the kids came in, and it's a one-to-one Chromebook group, and the kids came in. The teacher played some Alicia Maroney's her name. She played a little yoga music for the kids. They did a little warm-up exercise. Kids were totally down with it. They were having a good time. And then she said, "Okay, get out your Chromebooks, log into what we were working on yesterday." No problem. Kids were able to do that. I love that when they can get the substitution level, just make that invisible. The kids logged in, and she said, "Okay, now based on the reading that we did yesterday, we're going to work on making claims from this text." And then I noticed that the kids started to get a little bit squirrelier. And then she would say, "Okay, now very specifically, I need you to write your claim down and start thinking about defending it with evidence." And they got a little bit more disruptive, and I found it very interesting because I was sitting in the back. I was actually working on something else, and I thought, well, what a great opportunity to integrate the Google tools like Google Forms. Kids need opportunities to practice, and so one of the great things about Google Forms is not only can you integrate text, but you can integrate video. And one of the best ways to practice making claims is to just watch 30-second or 1-minute videos and have the kids make claims. And so I created a form that they can use to practice that. And so the idea would be that you take one form, you integrate video, have the kids make a claim, and then you have them give you a piece of evidence based on the video. And then we transition on the same form to text, take a very short piece of text, and have the kids make a claim based on the text and support it with a piece of evidence. They could even copy and paste a sentence from the text into the question. So we've got like 4 simple questions, and what we didn't ask for were the names. And so what you can do with Google Forms is have the kids practice making claims, the answers from the forms go into a spreadsheet, and then you share the spreadsheet with the kids. And then we can analyze the data with the kids. So we can say, okay, here was the video. what's your claim? And we don't even have to, so we're not putting anyone on blast, so the kids can practice freely. And what we have are a couple things. We have a tool that the teachers can use in the classroom. We could analyze the spreadsheet, and we could color code it. We've got green, which the class would vote on, decide these are really good examples. Red would be non-examples, which are often just as good as examples. And then yellow could be stuff we're not sure about. And if the kid were to go home and work on this, I know I'm also a parent of a middle school and a teenage daughter, and both have surpassed me. Well, one in math and the other because she's doing integrated math, and that seems to be beyond my background in philosophy. So the idea that when the kid gets home, if the parent's working with the child as well, at whatever level, they can analyze the doc. They can see that, and this could be with anything. I could use it with practice text. I could use it with actual text. I can put links inside of a Google form where the kids could, I could link to a piece of text, so they could actually link on that. They could click on the text. They could do their own close reading of the text. So I've got an example of it. I'm not sure if I can pull it up. Is that okay, Elizabeth, if I can pull it up, if I share my screen? Is that something we're doing or not doing? Thoughts? Questions?
Yeah, sorry, I had myself muted. Yeah.
All right.
If you want to do a screen share.
I want to make sure. I want to make sure that I'm within my time. So this is what it looks like. Can y'all see this?
Yep.
Okay, so first of all, we're defining, and this is just a practice, so what I'd like you to think about is how you could modify this to work with your population. So they're thinking about making claims. I just included a video that the kids can watch or the parent can watch without having to leave the form. And so they watch the video and they make a claim, and you use the help text to give some information. So again, we're telling them this is a practice. Give me some evidence to support your claim. The kids put the information there. And then I'm going to pull a piece of text. And so I use this piece from this gentleman who won Survivor, I think it was 2006, and he had been bullied as a child. And it also talks about stereotypes of Asian Americans. And so just four easy paragraphs, and the kids can make their claim here. They can then defend that with evidence, and they could just copy and paste if they wanted to. And then when they submit, it gives you can choose to give them a link to the actual, give them a link to the spreadsheet where they can analyze it. So they would get the spreadsheet here, and then they can actually start to analyze, okay, in that video, and you didn't see it, but this person said people are lazy, this was their evidence, and in the written text, this person said this was the claim, and this was the evidence. And so you could very easily share this with the kids, and they can take it home, they can analyze that evidence, and you could even, I think Jenny's probably going to FormMule it out and take it a step further and things you could do with it. But if you use something like Socrative, the kids could also, you could bring in the spreadsheet and the kids could vote on what they thought were the strongest claims. The idea for me is that to give, instead of having a single example, we can, with just using one Google form, we can send the kids home with 30, 40 examples depending on how many kids answered it. So it's just a way for them to access material, to be able to start to understand what's expected of them in a really simple way. So I guess I could call those crafty forms, but then it would be some sort of copyright on Chris's work. So, but thank you. I think that's all I have.
Perfect is up next. So it's perfect time, and she's led now.
I think. Did you say that I'm sorry? I had internet problems here, so you kind of got a little robotic on me. But I'm going to assume that I'm sharing next.
Yeah, you're next.
Okay, cool. So for my show and tell today, I wanted to talk to you guys about my challenges that I had as a teacher trying to differentiate and get real-time assessment information back to my kiddos. So as my students were doing work, they would do your formative assessments every day, their exit tickets or quick quizzes, whatever you want to call them. And the problem is that while I got really great quick information from them, I wasn't always giving them the best feedback. And so I wanted my kids to have instantaneous understanding of what they understood, but moreover, have that lead directly to a differentiated activity. So basically what I wanted to do was increase the speed of the assessment differentiation feedback loop. So what I started with were Google Forms, a lot like Jeff was talking about. So thanks, Jeffrey, for setting that one up. And so I'm going to share my screen as well. And so you can see here, I was a 4th and 5th grade math teacher, so that's the kind of exit ticket I did for you there. This is probably actually more like a 3rd grade exit ticket, but we won't squabble on that. And so you have your kids do their names, and then they have a little quick question. I know that a lot of people have issue with multiple choice questions as formative assessments, but for this you really do want it to be a multiple choice, and you'll see why. You could also put some metacognitive stuff in there, like another text question that says, explain why 4 times 3 equals whatever. What was your thinking? How did you get there? But it is important that you do a forced choice. So after you have a question like this, you go to your answers, and the way you do that is you go back to your form and you click right here on View Responses, and it opens up the spreadsheet. And so as your kiddos fill this out, so if they write Jennie Magiera, and I think the answer is 7. 4 times 3 equals 7, right guys? Right? The answer is going to pop right up here in this super auto-magical Google form. And I have it here in the spreadsheet, and I can do a couple things with this. As Jeff said, I can have some fun with it. I can conditionally format this entire column so it lights up in beautiful colors to let me know whether or not my kids got it correct or incorrect. So by doing that, I just hover over on the column here and click on it. Click on this little drop-down doohickey and go down to conditional formatting. And I can say if the cell of the text is exactly 12, let's go ahead and make that green because the answer is correct. And then let's add another rule. If they said that the answer is 7, let's make that red. That's not so correct. That's not the right answer. So as we continue here, I can go ahead and have kids continue to answer this Google form, and it will give me whether or not their answer was correct based on how this color, the cell's shaded in. Now that's great for me as the teacher to see what my students are doing, but it doesn't really help them in understanding whether they got it correct or incorrect. So that's when we add in a little add-on called FormMule. And to do that in the spreadsheet, you just pop right up here into the menu, and you would click Get Add-ons. You can see I already installed it because I wasn't sure how my Wi-Fi would be, but just to let you know how to do it, you would click Get Add-ons. You would type in FormMule, all one word with no spaces. This is a handy-dandy little extension made by the amazing New Visions Cloud Lab in New York City at the New Visions Network, and it's headed up by the amazing Andrew Stillman. Once you install it once, it's installed in all spreadsheets in your account, so you never have to do it again, which is super helpful. And then you can come over here and go to Setup. Now what FormMule is going to do is it's going to send my students an email response based on which answer they chose. So I'm going to go ahead and select the sheet that got all the responses, which is this Form Responses 1. And I'm going to turn on the form trigger, meaning as soon as my students hit submit on the form, it's automatically going to send them this magical little response email. And I'm going to go to the templates, and I want to have 4 different templates. And the reason why I want 4 templates is because I have 4 answer choices, 7, 1, 43, and 12. So I'm going to go ahead and say 7, 1, 43, and 12. And then I'm going to set the condition where if they answer the question 4 times 3 as 7, they're going to get the email for the 7. And I'm going to keep going down here like this, saying for each of these emails are going to use that question to determine which email template to send out, and these answers are going to trigger these email templates. All right, once I hit save, I can edit the templates. And now what I get to do is I can write a specialized email to the students based on which answer they chose. So I'm going to send it to, and I have to get their email, which, oops, I forgot to do in this pre-cooked form here. So you would definitely want to collect the student's email address. A quick way to do that is if you're using your district domain, you can automatically collect respondents' district username, and that will automatically collect their email, which will save you some time. But then here in the body, I can write them an email. I can say, "Dear first name, great job on this exit ticket. You got the right answer, 12. And I can give them a little challenge. So I can give them a challenge activity, and I could say, go ahead. Oops, I could say, go ahead. Oops. Go ahead and try this challenge. So that could be if they got the correct answer for 12. If they got the wrong answer, 43, I could say, watch this video and try it again. So I can put a little YouTube video about how to multiply in there. And so for each of the different answers, they'll get a different email. It'll come immediately after they fill out the Google form, which is great because they'll get the immediate reinforcement of whether their answer was incorrect or correct, but they'll also get the immediate differentiation of what to do next based on how they did on that Google form, which is super helpful. Again, it closes that feedback loop so that as soon as the kids finish the activity, they can get assessed, they get immediate feedback, but moreover, they get immediate differentiation. So that's the kind of magical help that I like to see in the classroom, and that for me is truly transformative for technology.
It's fantastic. Thanks, Jenny, for sharing that. That was great. And last but not least, we're going to move right on to Julene Reed, just so we can have a few minutes at the end for some questions and answers. Go ahead, Julene.
Sure. I'm Director of Academic Technology at a school in Memphis, Tennessee, St. George's Independent School, but I'm also lucky to be able to travel all over the country and do lots of consulting and Google Apps training. And one of the things that I find is cumbersome for teachers and the workflow with students is managing all the documents. You know, that's really a problem. You know, I've assigned something, I have 5 sections of a class in an upper school maybe, and 20 or 30 kids in each class, and all these documents to have to go find and review. And so when Google Classroom was released over a year ago, it just became this wonderful tool for teachers and students in the workflow. But recently, they've even announced more upgrades to that. And so this has solved some of the problems we had in the past in managing our documents within Google. So not only do we have the initial Google Classroom benefits, but now we can actually save assignments so we can create them in advance and not publish them right away. If you have a co-teacher, you can also share a class now with a co-teacher. Lots of new fancy themes for those of you who like to change your themes and make it really spiffy. You can use mobile apps now to also assign grades. So the way that you can use the whole Google Classroom environment has really been improved. They've really listened to what the teachers wanted and what they need. And so it's been really awesome. You can download your grades as a batch. I mean, just lots of the things that we really asked for, they've given to us now. So I'm really excited about that. And I know that the schools with whom I've been working or with which I've been working that have implemented it, it is so easy. It is the easiest thing to do. You don't have to preload your students. There's a code you can just give for each class, and the students can register themselves using that code, and that code can be turned off and on. And that code can also be regenerated for a new code when you need to do that. Quick and easy way to have a stream of assignments, a stream of information, and you can add YouTube videos, you can add links, you can upload files, all kinds of really cool things. So if you haven't tried to manage your workflow with Google Classroom, I highly recommend it. You do have to be within your school's domain, and they do have to have turned it on as an option for you to use, but it's an awesome tool to do that. And I was talking to a teacher the other day, and or a district person in it was actually Warwick, Rhode Island. I've been working with them a lot in that school district, and I was talking to the head of the district technology group about, you know, what have they seen happening in all their schools across the district, and she just said, I want to share 2 stories with you. And the stories she shared were, number 1, they had a homebound child that could not be at school because of illness, and that child could keep up with all of their assignments because of Google Classroom and turn them in, and it just made it such a wonderful tool for that. And then the second story was they had a young boy in middle school who never ever turned in his homework on time, usually didn't even turn it in until he was nagged and nagged. And he was the first one to turn in his assignment on Google Classroom. So that solved another problem that way too. So we were really excited about the changes that Google's made to this. And if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. It's solved a lot of the issues with managing your workflow.
That's great. Thank you so much, Julene. Jenny, we had a question from the audience. Somebody wanted to know the name of that add-on again.
It was FormMule, F-O-R-M-M-U-L-E.
Okay, great. And then I had gotten a question in advance from Dawn Ramseur in North Carolina, and she wanted to know about how to manage many extensions. Jenny, I'll start with you. Do you have an answer for her?
Yeah, there's a great extension to manage the extensions called Extensions Manager. There's a bunch of different ones. I think Jeff has another one, but basically it creates a little button in your extensions that allows you to turn them off and on, hide them, activate, deactivate them, mess around with them. Jeff, you had a different one though, right?
Yes, I did. It was called Extensity, and it basically is the same thing. You install Extensity, and then you can just click on it and then turn your extensions on and off. And I do work where people have to turn on, I have to check for web accessibility. So I'm using different tools to have the readers, and for some reason it's like gum when I turn on those web readers. I can't turn them off again. And so Extensity or any one of those is an awesome tool to be able to just turn these things on and off.
Okay, great. Great insight. And then we had gotten another question also in advance of the Hangout from Jan Tunison in New York. And she was wondering about, she says, the Google Reading Level feature provided important information to students and educators. Why was this feature eliminated? And so she was just curious about the rationale for this, or wanted to know if you guys had seen the same thing. Anybody encountered that or have any insight on that?
Well, she's right. The Google Reading Level search has disappeared, and in fact, if you happen to have looked at crafty184.com when we were talking, one of my most beloved extensions was called Crafty Level, which forced the search results to be at the basic reading level. I used to use that for my students that wanted their search to look exactly like everyone else's, to not be called out for the fact they might not be understanding what they were reading. But unfortunately, it quit working as well, which means that, and all that extension did was append the special URL characters that force the reading search, which means it's not just disappeared from the advanced search options. That whole feature appears to have been completely deprecated.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. It's good to know we're all seeing the same thing.
Yeah, and we don't really know why, and if it's just a temporary change as they're embedding it in something else, or if it's going to be something that stays. But one thing we can always be sure of, Google's always changing, and usually it's for the good usually, so we're hoping that we'll see it in a different way.
Well, and in the age of the zombie, perhaps it will come back as sort of like a level walker kind of thing that'll just wander across the screen.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well we're pretty much close to the time that we promised we would end this. So I just wanted to let the audience know that on the showcase, if you switch back from Q&A back to the showcase, I've got a link to our ISTE Google Plus page, as well as a link to the conference website that will actually take you directly to our Learning Academies page. So the Learning Academies are something that's new for this year. We've got a full day of learning on Google Tools, so this exact topic, and these wonderful presenters that have joined us today are going to be some of the presenters that you will be learning from on that full day of education on Google Tools. We've got another Learning Academy on iTools as well, so it's kind of up to you which one you want to register for, but those are pre-conference days, so those are Saturday and Sunday before our conference in Philadelphia this year in June. So check that out. ISTEconference.org is the general site to get more information on that. And thank you again so much to Chris and Jeff and Julene and Jenny. I really appreciate you guys spending your time getting prepared for this, and then also, you know, spending the time on the actual hangout, sharing your knowledge with our community. It means a lot to us. So thank you so much for being here.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Bye. Have a
See
great
you all
evening.
in Philly.
Thank
See you in Philly. All right, bye.
Bye.